everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name's Kate and every Friday I bring you a book review. I wanted to do something slightly different this week, as this week on Monday we had a really big easing of lockdown here in the UK. All the pubs and non-essential shops got to reopen, and I know for some people that will make them feel really anxious. I know me and my friends were talking about it, getting into this cycle of like, sometimes we were anxious because cases are rising, sometimes we're anxious because they're falling, and you know, everything's opening up again. You kind of get into this weird kind of cycle of lockdown, and then you're anxious about that, and then you get used to lockdown, then things ease, and you get anxious about things easing, and then possibly lockdown happens again, who knows. So it's a whole cycle, and it's a whole weird thing, whole weird time. So I thought I'd do some books this week on just some books that I find comforting and that might help you with that anxiety if that's what you're feeling at the moment. These are all books I've read before, and they're all books I find really comforting. So I just thought I'd share them with you, and I'm sure you've all read them before. If you haven't, please do let me know if you read any of them in the comments, because these are some of my favourite books. So the first one is It Just Me by Miranda Hart. I mean, I love Miranda. I'm a massive Miranda fan. I love her so much. She really kind of speaks to me. She's one of life's awkward people, and I consider myself one of life's awkward people as well. Like, I've read this book so many times. I've listened to the audiobook as well. She reads the audiobook, so I'd really recommend that as well. And it's just her talking to her 18-year-old self. And my favourite part of this whole book is what she calls us in the book. She calls us my dear reader chum, which is the thing that I love. And I just find it really lovely, and it's funny, and it's very Miranda-y, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like just a good kind of book to have, a good little Bible to have in life. And to know that it's not just you, as she says. Is it just me? No, it's not just you, Miranda, it is me as well. And I think it's nice to have that there. I know that possibly for some people this easing of lockdown, you're a bit worried and about, you know, leaving the house again, having a bit of social anxiety, going into social situations, even going back to the office. What do we do? How do you interact with people? We've been told to stay in our houses for the last year. So I just thought that's a really good one. It's really funny, it's light-hearted, and it might just help ease the burden of kind of going back in society if that's what you're doing. If you're still staying at home, then good on you. So the next one is a book that I wanted to read as soon as this pandemic kind of happened, as soon as we got told to work from home in the UK, so kind of March last year, so this time last year basically. And I remember asking everyone I knew if they have this book, because I hadn't actually read this one. I'd read the follow-up to it, but I hadn't read the first one. And then my sister had it, so she dropped it around on my doorstep, because we weren't allowed to like see each other at that point. And that's The Handmade Tail by Margaret Atwood. And I don't really know what it was about this book that I wanted to read it so much. I think it was because she says a lot in it, like in the time before. And I think that's kind of what drew me to it. Maybe I was watching the TV series at the time or something, but as soon as this all kind of like COVID and the coronavirus and all of that was becoming a real thing, and you know, Italy was in lockdown, places in Europe were in lockdown, we got told to work from home in the UK, and it just literally felt like life was going to change forever, or life was about to change in a massive way. We were all, you know, under house arrest basically. And so yeah, I just really wanted to read The Handmaid's Tale. I don't particularly know why, apart from, as I said, she talks a lot about in the time before. I think that really resonated with me at the time, because I had a lot of things that I had planned for last year that got cancelled. I had a whole summer full of festivals and gigs and like so much stuff I was really looking forward to that just got cancelled. I mean, at this point I'm resigned to everything being rearranged to next year or possibly never happening. But at that point, it was all in the time before. In the time before, when we could hug people, when we could go to concerts and festivals and listen to our favourite bands and artists play music live. In the time before, when we could get closer to someone than 2 meters. I mean, it is a bit depressing, this book. I probably should say that before I move on to the next one. Probably a little bit depressing than this one, so maybe if your mental health's not in the best state or you're feeling a bit, maybe don't read this one. But hey, if you're up to it, definitely read it. It's well worth the read. The Midnight Library by Haig. Oh, I love this book so much. This book it's a bit of a Miranda book. It has a lot of life lessons in it, although not quite the same. And can we just talk about this? This is like my childhood at school, like school libraries. And I think this book is just so good for your mental health. I think it will really, really help you with your mental health if you're struggling at the moment, because Nora goes on a journey in this book and she kind of goes through all her regrets, and I think it's just good to remember that to live our lives for ourselves and not to live our lives for anyone else. I think that's what this teaches us, and that the path we didn't take isn't necessarily going to be the right one for us anyway. We might already be on that right path, we just don't know it yet. So I love this book so much. I've talked about it previously in previous videos, but I adore this book. Apparently I heard on a podcast that Haig was on that Dolly Parton keeps this book on her bedside table next to the Bible. I mean, if you need any more endorsement than that, I don't know what you need. Because if Dolly Parton likes it, then she keeps it on her bedside table next to the Bible. So I would say, everyone, keep the Midnight Library on your bedside table. Whether you have a Bible there or not is up to you, but definitely have the Midnight Library. So when I was looking and coming up with a list of these books to do, you knew that there wasn't going to not be a Marian Keyes book in here, didn't you? And I thought long and hard about which Marian Keyes book I wanted to include, because as you all know, I'm a massive Marian Keyes fan. I love her books. I think she's so underrated. And because I love her books so much, I've read them all so many times and they're all really comforting to me in different ways. But I thought for this video that anybody out there would be the perfect one to suggest that you guys read. So this is the book about Anna Walsh. So she is, that don't know, Marian Keyes has written a series of books, of 5 books, technically 6 because she written a short story about their mum as well, about the 5 Walsh sisters, starting with Watermelon, then it's Rachel's Holiday, then it's Angels, then it's Anybody Out There, and then it's The Mystery of Mercy Close. And I decided to choose Anna because Anna is kind of, I guess she's kind of the softest, she's the most gentlest of the 5 Walsh sisters, and she's going through a really hard time in the book. It deals with her having lost someone very close to her and she's grieving. And I thought maybe if people have lost someone throughout this whole pandemic in the last year, whether it was COVID related or not, I know this book really helped me when I was grieving. It's just nice to read about someone else going through the same thing as you, but obviously it's Marian Keyes, so it's done in a not really massively heavy, dark way, but she as some other books that might do. Like, it's definitely a lighter read, even though the subject matter is a little bit dark, than The Midnight Library or The Handmaid's Tale. I feel like I've just given you really heavy reads in this video, so sorry about that. But yeah, anybody out there is your light read in this, as is it just me? Those are your 2 light reads in this. And the last book is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I love this book so much, and again, it's one of those books I really wanted to read during this pandemic. I don't know why, if it's maybe to do with the death and the expiring, and I think it's a really interesting look on human life and human beings and our obsession with living forever and being young forever. And I guess maybe because of this whole pandemic and they're struggling to come up with ways to treat COVID, it kind of felt fitting, the subject matter of this book felt a little bit fitting for the time that we're going through and everything that's going on at the moment. There is a film out there about it as well, which is a real shame. It's nowhere near as good as the book, but it's got a really good cast. But yeah, I really recommend it. It's so good. I'm reading his latest book at the moment, which is awesome as well. I'll do a book review on that at some point. And yeah, I really recommend it. Like, it's about friendship, it's about love, it's about loss. And I think it's a really interesting look at human beings and society and the way we kind of view immortality, I guess. I don't know. It's just a really, like, all his books are a really interesting take on society, and they kind of examine society and the things that we're obsessed with. And so, yeah, it's just something I wanted to read during this time. So I hope you read it, and I hope you enjoy it as well. And I hope these books maybe give you an idea of something that you could read at the moment that might distract you from everything that's going on, or might appeal to you in this time. And please do let me know in the comments if you enjoy them, if you've read them before, if you think I've got it right, if you think I've got it totally wrong, if there's any you would have suggested. I'd love to know. And I will see you next week with a book review.